Good morning. My name is Alex Hughes. I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate in the Department of History at York University. This is my paper, The Franchise, Pizza's Mass Commodification in Toronto, 1968 to 1990. The radio and television jingles, 967-1111, call pizza pizza, hey, 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 439-000, Pizza Nova, and it was a rainy day in Pizzaville, have been imprinted on the collective memory of most Torontonians since the 1970s. These jingles are all attributed to pizza franchises. The pizza franchise has become ubiquitous with modern life in Toronto, but this was not always the case. The franchise pizzeria is a product of the era between post-war and present day, facilitated by the conditions of urban economic and population growth and the erosion of Italian ethnic economies in the pizza industry. As of 2021, the top 10 highest grossing fast food franchise operations in Canada include several pizza chains. Pizza is one of the only dishes with ethnic origins on this list. A study of the history of pizza in Canada is significant to understand its evolution from an immigrant dish into a mainstream food commodity that was commoditized as a fast food. The roots of the franchise commodification lay in the growth of Canadian conglomerates and the attraction of American companies to Canada between post-war and present day. Pizza was introduced to non-Italians in Toronto in the 1950s via home pizza making kits, Chef Boyardee, frozen pizza, and other convenience food. Pizza recipes were popularized in women's magazines, and pizza was touted as a nutritious and delicious snack or meal. As non-Italians became accustomed to pizza, they sought pizza of a better quality than they could produce in their own homes, and turned to pizza restaurants owned by Italian entrepreneurs. The operation of pizzerias, restaurants and bakeries serving pizza, was a segment of the Italian ethnic economy in Toronto. As Italian immigrants were excluded from mainstream commercial activities, they created their own economic opportunities to serve their co-ethnic community, or fulfill the segment of the urban economy that non-Italians did not want to work in. Pizzerias were one example of the ethnic economy, whereby Italians used traditional foodways to produce a commodity for the co-ethnic and non-ethnic Italian consumer market. Between 1957, when Toronto's first pizzeria, Vesuvio, opened on Dundas West, and 1970, 109 pizzerias opened in the city. Of these 109, 6 were attributed to fast food franchising. But by 1990, Toronto had 244 pizzerias, of which over 100 were franchises. The expansion of fast food franchise pizzas was attributed to the success of some independent pizza businesses, which expanded their operations to one or more storefronts. But by the 1960s, they expanded their businesses on the franchising model. Franchising encompassed the sale of the brand's name, supply chain, kitchen technologies, sales technologies, advertising, and other supports to a smaller company who would operate a franchise on behalf of a franchisee or franchisor. This paper examines the history of franchises and conglomerates in Toronto to highlight the erosion of Italian ethnic economies in the pizza industry. As pizza was popularized, non-Italians sought to profit from the industry by co-opting pizza and pizzerias. Non-Italian pizzerias standardized the experience of consuming pizza and standardized the pizza product to replace the supports of the Italian ethnic economy. Franchise fast food was popularized in Toronto by the 1970s as American franchise chains established branch plants in the city. An article from the Toronto Star in 1971 explained, "The fast food business is growing so fast in metropolitan Toronto that at least one fast food franchise chain is making public appeals to buy land to build sites of new outlets. McDonald's, which opened its first restaurant in Toronto in 1969, was appealing to landowners to build new sites. The reporter noted, with competition keen, some fast food outlets are bound to fall by the wayside. The article highlighted the popularity and increased competition in the fast food industry in Toronto. Another American fast food chain, Kentucky Fried Chicken, entered Canada in 1955 under the banner Scott's Chicken Villa. The spokesman for Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Heartland Sanders, said in a CBC radio interview that fast food in Canada was plumb tasteless. However, after living in Canada for over a decade, Sanders said, "I've traveled all over North America as a restaurateur and think Toronto has taken great strides in establishing fine fast food restaurants. Other chains including A&W, Howard Johnson, and Canadian franchises, Harvey's and Mr. Sub, opened in Toronto in the 1970s. Every chain introduced processes of standardization, rapid cooking, cleanliness, sameness, child friendliness, and central real estate holding that was essential to franchise operations. Some of the first pizza franchises in Toronto were attributed to the Italian ethnic economy. Pizza Nova, which was founded on May 12, 1963 at the corner of Lawrence Avenue, just west of Kennedy Road in Scarborough, by brothers Sam, Mike, Vince, and Joe Premucci. The family had moved to Toronto from Italy in 1952. Mike Premucci was a race car driver and delivered pizzas on the side to supplement his income. Having gained technical know-how and more pizza experience by working in the pizzeria owned by an ethnocultural entrepreneur, Mike Premucci decided to approach his brothers to open a pizzeria of their own, as he was looking for a safer way than race car driving to make money. The pizzeria was originally named Pizza Nuova, Italian meaning new. But according to Dominic Premucci, CEO of Pizza Nova and son of the founder, he said, "My father and his brothers, they had the insight that Nuova was difficult for non-Italians to pronounce, and they changed to the easy and simple name Nova." The first pizzeria was a takeout place, but also had tables, and they served dining room style meals, including pizza, spaghetti, lasagna, and ravioli, which demonstrates their connection to the Italian ethnic economy. By the 1960s, the demand for pizza was high and traffic congestion on Kennedy Road became voluminous, so they opened a second location on Betty Ann Drive at Yonge and Finch. In 1969, they adapted a franchise strategy to cater to the growing demand for pizza in Toronto. They looked towards community-based partnerships, friends, and people who worked within their locations to serve as the first franchisees. This shows how they were reliant on the supports of the Italian ethnic economy, including food suppliers and restaurant builders. By 1974, the restaurant grew to 14 franchise stores in Toronto. Also opening in 1963 was Pizzaville, opened by Teddy Edelman, a photographer, a manufacturer of women's clothes, and a hotel and restaurant supplier. Edelman was not Italian, but his connections to the hotel and restaurant industry led him to open a pizzeria of his own. He looked at a pizzeria and decided it was too expensive to have a busser, a dishwasher, and a waiter to serve cheap pizza. So he decided to open Pizzaville as a counter-service pizzeria, in contrast to full-service Italian restaurants like Pizza Nova. The original location was opened at Keele Street and Shepherd Avenue, near Downsview Air Force Base in North York. He grew Pizzaville to 12 locations prior to his death in 1975. However, following his death, the company was sold to Angelo Contardi. Contardi's father, Marco, was a cheesemaker who moved from Italy to Toronto in the 50s, and Marco supplied cheese to Pizzaville and other Italian restaurants. Angelo's connection to his father's business facilitated his purchase of Pizzaville. And at the time of purchase, Pizzaville was a rather faltering chain, having shrunk from 15 outlets at the height of the company's success to 5 outlets in 1979. However, under his growth, he was able to reestablish connections to the Italian ethnic economy and grow to 10 franchises in Toronto by 1990. The 1970s ushered in a new era of pizza franchising in Toronto, as non-Italians were attracted to the profitability of pizza. While figures like Edelman facilitated connections to the Italian ethnic economy, these new entrepreneurs didn't bother to build the same connections or relationships. The Pizza Outsiders created methods which replaced the supports of Italian ethnic economies, resulting in the standardization of pizza and standardized pizza consumption experience. Michael Overs was one of the first non-Italians to open a pizzeria in Toronto. He opened Pizza Pizza at the corner of Wellesley and Parliament Streets on December 31st, 1967, a 300-square-foot store catering to takeout and delivery orders. The business focused on non-restaurant consumption, which differs from the Italian origins of Pizza Nova, which emerged from restaurants. The original Pizza was a small storefront with a kitchen on the lower level. When asked by the Toronto Star about the name of the restaurant, Overs thought he'd be getting a lot of late-night drunks who would have difficulty with the name, and even registered the name Pizza because he thought it would be funny for drunk people to pronounce that. The tiny location catered to the popularity of takeout amongst downtown Torontonians, students at Ryerson Polytechnical Institute, downtown nightlife, as well as industry. Overs directly managed the growth of the business through the late 1960s. To open the first store, he worked as a dry cleaning delivery driver and used the income from that job and put it directly into Pizza. Pizza grew to 42 locations in Toronto by 1981, and Overs sought innovative business methods to make Pizza stand out from their competitors. In the early 1970s, he acquired the phone number 967-1111 to act as the central phone number for Pizza franchises. The number had once belonged to the Eden's department store, who asked for the number back a few weeks after Overs started to promote it. In fact, by 1981, it became one of the most frequently called phone numbers in Toronto. Call center operators took orders and dispatched them to local franchises to produce the pizza and deliver. To support this centralized operation, Overs purchased a $300,000 computer system to maintain customer details, connect to franchises, and provide directions to all streets in metropolitan Toronto. On top of the call centers and the computer systems, he also created a flying squad of employees who monitored computer operations and dispatched extra staff to busy locations. This phone system and computerized efficiency allowed them to offer customers the satisfaction policy 30 minutes or it's free, as created by Domino's Pizza in Michigan. Similar to Pizza was Frank Vitteri's, a chain opened in 1972 by FoodX Systems and named after their Italian vice president to create a sense of authenticity. FoodX was a restaurant operation business that operated 86 Ponderosa steakhouses, a chain based on the TV show Bonanza, which sold cheap buffet-style steak dinners across Canada. The president of FoodX explained, "We started Vitterias to serve one purpose, for the day that Ponderosa started to slow down." Vitterias was a holding operation, but became the main focus of FoodX as the Ponderosa brand slipped in popularity. The first location opened at 2575 Eglinton Avenue East in Scarborough. Unlike other franchises founded by non-Italians, Vitterias was actually a sit-down restaurant with red checkered tablecloths, arcade machines, gumball machines, and cartoons served alongside their pizza in a pan, a Chicago deep dish style pizza. By 1979, the chain had grown to 9 restaurants in Toronto. FoodX claimed that their target audience was the college crowd, ages 18 to 25, and young families with ample income. The owner argued that Ma and Pa operations were not their competitors, and that their only competitor was Hamilton, Ontario-based Mother's Restaurant, which also sold pizza, spaghetti, and root beer floats. Vitterias was not interested in competing with the independent pizzerias, but was a national restaurant chain comparable to Swiss Chalet, St. Hubert, or the American Olive Garden. Middle-class incomes in Toronto supported the consumption at a chain restaurant, and Vitterias is an example of how these economic demands facilitated the commodification of pizza by a non-Italian. As non-Italians sought to profit from the popularity of pizza, conglomerates or multi-industry companies owned by non-Italians also sought to profit. Pizza Patio, an expansionary pizza chain founded in Vancouver, British Columbia, became one of Canada's first pizza conglomerates. After expanding across British Columbia, in March 1970, they became publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange. The proceeds from this initial public offering funded an expansion to Toronto. Toronto was an attractive expansionary market because of its economic and population growth in the 1970s. Another franchise, Pizza Delight, founded in Shediac, New Brunswick in 1968, is also important to this story. Pizza Delight had multiple locations in Toronto by 1975, but in 1979, Pizza Patio and Pizza Delight were forced into merger when Toronto-based business conglomerate Robin Hood Multifoods purchased the 70 Ontario outlets of Pizza Delight and Pizza Patio. Robin Hood Multifood was a conglomerate of consumer, industrial, and agricultural products. But prior to the purchase of these pizzerias, Robin Hood was already in the pizza industry, owing to their Robin Hood flour brand, industrial bakery supply, and Gusto frozen pizzas. Their expansion into the away-from-home eating purchase of Pizza Delight and Pizza Patio put Robin Hood Multifoods in a position where they owned all aspects of the pizza industry: pizza at home, restaurant supply, and pizza franchises. This corporate purchase illuminates the capitalist commodification of pizza, as one owner not connected to an Italian ethnic economy controlled the commodification of pizza in Toronto's homes, restaurants, and franchise chains. The conglomerate commodification of pizza in Toronto in 1980 was much later than the events in the United States, where in 1977, soda giant PepsiCo purchased the Wichita, Kansas-based Pizza Hut, a chain of 1,477 restaurants in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. But Pizza Hut is an interesting story as it is an American branch plant in Toronto. American branch plant franchises were franchises attracted to opening into Toronto because of the city's growing population, as well as the ability to conduct business cheaper in Canada and the belief that investment in regional economies would be prosperous. Pizza Hut opened its first location in Toronto in 1971 and expanded to 3 by 1974. These locations were small storefronts in strip mall plazas or walk-up sidewalk storefronts. The initial Toronto Pizza Huts didn't utilize the prefabricated Pizza Hut building with the red pavilion roof that the brand had become known for in the United States. They grew to 15 locations in Toronto by 1985 and 20 by 1990. However, much of their growth was attributed to the failure of the Frankfurteria chain in 1984. They purchased all the Toronto area Vitteria locations as Vitterias faced financial troubles. PepsiCo did not disclose how much these franchises were purchased for, but said it would cost approximately $200,000 per location to redecorate. Although Vitterias was eliminated from Toronto, 12 restaurants remained in Canada. The acquisition of a smaller chain demonstrates how the commodification of pizza in Toronto shifted from independent pizzeria ownership attributed to ethnic economies to multinational conglomerates. American chains Chuck E. Cheese, Domino's, and Little Caesars also opened Canadian branch plants. In 1983, Chuck E. Cheese opened a location in Toronto, but it was met with hostility from parents who believed moral corruption of children playing video games, eating pizza, and watching singing robots. Domino's also arrived in the 1980s, and it was projected that by 1990 there would be 500 Domino's locations in Canada. However, this was highly inaccurate as there was only 3 locations in Toronto by 1990. Detroit chain Little Caesars entered the Toronto market in 1989 when they purchased the bankrupt Mother's Pizza chain, which was owned by Toronto Blue Jays player Ernie Witt and batting coach Cito Gaston, who ran the chain into nearly $20 million in bankruptcy. The sale of this chain added 100 locations to the Little Caesars operations. However, they slowly reduced these down to 5 Mother's locations in Toronto and 3 Little Caesars locations in 1990. However, this demonstrates how one American branch plant established their roots in Toronto by buying a faltering Canadian pizza franchise. The introduction of the conglomerate and pizza franchise to Toronto resulted in the standardization of the pizza product. Conglomerates and franchises had multiple stores across wide geographic areas, with complex supply chain, distribution systems, and employees who were not centrally hired or trained. They were forced to rely on the standardization of pizza product to support their restaurants. Standardization replaced the role and support of Italian ethnic economies, and the standardization of procedures results in a standardized pizza product, which is different from the artisanal, original pizzas produced in independent pizzerias. Franchises and conglomerates overwhelmingly took over the pizza industry in Toronto by 1990, representing close to half of the pizzerias in the city. Independent pizzerias were forced to reinvent their offerings to stand out and attract customers. This included the production of authentic styles of pizza, the Nonna or Mama pizza, to evoke a sense of nostalgia, and using pizza as a symbol of Italian banal nationalism to attract customers. The pizza they produced wasn't authentically Italian, but was authentically Italian-Canadian to Toronto in the 1950s. They also captured the California pizza phrase of the 1980s and produced artisanal-style pizzas with high-end ingredients, as popularized by Wolfgang Puck at his restaurant Spago in Beverly Hills, California. These recipes were reliant on production in independent pizzerias because of the skill required to produce them and the artisanal ingredients that were required to make them. While pizza became an incredibly popular dish in Toronto and ubiquitous with modern life in the city, the product is attributed to ethnic economies, but was co-opted by non-Italians as a mass commodity. Even today, a dichotomy exists in Toronto between independent pizzerias and pizza franchises, both seeking to capture customers. The roots of this cheesy commodification lay in between the post-war and present day. Thank you.